Hello, everyone. As I promised, I'm back with the second lesson on IELTS Speaking Test. Last week, this time I went live on my YouTube channel and I talked about IELTS Speaking test structure. And I hope that I could answer some of your questions, especially for the ones who are totally new to the IELTS speaking test and they have no idea how it works, and also the ones who are already experienced a bit. I hope that I could help you guys out. Today we are going to talk about IELTS speaking test part 1. Our main focus is part 1. Hopefully every week I can help you guys with different parts, part 2, part 3. Definitely one session we're going to go over the band descriptors and some myth and truth about IELTS, but today we are focusing only on part 1. I will show you the common type of questions that show up usually in part 1. I'll show you how to answer the questions, what are the important parts, and what you generally need to take care of in part 1. I will share share my screen and I'll show you guys some slides. If anybody wants to have access to this material that we're going to work on today, just simply go to my website and click on my free lessons button. Just punch in your email address and I'll email you the material that we're going to work on today. I'll share at the end of today, I'll share all the information with you. The information exists on the last slide. I'll share my screen and you can see them. And you just need to go to the website. Also, the video for the first free lesson also exists on my YouTube channel, and you can just watch it at your own pace anytime that you like. So let's get started. Let me just share my screen. Okay, great. So this is the material that I'm talking about. If you want these slides, just go to the website and go to my free lessons. It asks for your email address, and then you will receive an email shortly with the material. I believe most of you guys know me, but for the ones who could not watch the first video or you didn't attend the live session, my name is Mariam Bagher Valiente, and I'm an IELTS expert and also founder of IELTS Adventure. I've been teaching English for over 20 years. And I've taught different areas, different exams such as IELTS, TOEFL, CELPIP, and you can find some information about my background here that I've been teaching, especially new immigrants, international students, and refugees as well. And at the moment, I've been teaching academic writing to international students at a post-secondary school. I also have my bachelor's and my master's in English studies, in translation studies. I love teaching English. I don't consider it a job. I'm so blessed that I'm in love with what I'm doing, and I enjoy meeting new students, as they always have something new to teach me. And I love this two-way street of teaching and learning from my students, and that motivates me to work even harder and smarter. So let's get started. As you can see in the content, these are the points that we're going to cover today. We're going to have a little bit of introduction to all three parts. I will show you guys what will happen in all three parts of IELTS Speaking Test. And then specifically, we're going to move on to part one. You will see part one in summary. There's some tips, and there's some models and answer models, and there are some question samples. So as you can see in this table, IELTS Speaking Test has three parts: part one, part two, and part three. In part one, the questions are very personal. The topics are very general. And we are going to talk about part one fully today. So I'll move on to part two, which is an individual long run. You will receive a cue card or a booklet with a topic on it, and you need to talk between 1 to 2 minutes about that topic. Again, the topic is very general, and also you need to relate to the topic, and you need to answer the question based on your personal experience. In part three, which is the most challenging part of the IELTS Speaking Test, it's a two-way discussion. It takes around 4 to 5 minutes. The topic in part three is exactly the same as part two. So whatever topic you talked about based on your personal experience, now it is the same topic. However, it is not related to your personal life, and you need to answer your questions with the help of more global examples. And the questions are a bit more abstract. So in this part, you should forget about your personal experiences, and you need to have a global point of view and think about, let's say, a bigger picture of what is going on in the world, in the societies, in communities, and not include your personal experience. Now let's see what happens in part one, what you guys should expect, and how you can pass this part more confidently and more smoothly. I'll show you right from the beginning of the test. You are usually called by the examiner, and you will go to a room, and the examiner starts recording whatever happens from the first second till the minute that you leave the room. So you don't need to worry about this recording. This is just like for the evidence, and the examiners will have the opportunity to listen to that recording as many times as they like. The examiners introduce themselves, and they let you know that this interview is going to be recorded. They start the timer, and then the very first thing that they ask you is your name and your nationality. So you introduce yourself, your full name. They also ask you if you have any nickname, any preference, and they will ask where you are from. So basically, you need to tell them where you were born. For instance, if you were born in India, you can say, I was born in Punjab in India, or I am from Punjab in India, no matter if you are currently living in another country. They want to know your nationality. Then the examiner will ask you for the proof of your identity, the same ID card that you used at the time of registration. And they will give it back to you. And they start asking some familiar topics, such as either work, studies, or home. So the very, very first questions are usually either what do you work, or you study? Or they ask about where you live, if you live in a house or an apartment. So if you work, so when the examiner asks you, do you work or study, then you can choose either of them. You don't need to answer both. So whatever you prefer. If you're a student, you can talk about your studies. If you work, you can talk about your job. So choose one. And then they usually ask, like, is this your dream job? Do you think you will stay in this job forever? Or what do you usually do at the end of your work day? Or some questions about 2, 3 questions about your studies, if you like this field that you're studying, or about home. You live in a house or an apartment. What is your favorite room in your house? What do you like most about your apartment? So very general questions, like warm up. And then they start asking around, that might be around 8 to 12 questions, again, on very general topics, such as education, sports, hobbies, weather, cities and countries, food, and very, very general topics that you definitely have some ideas about. This was the whole process of part 1, and the type of questions, which are very general, and the examiner expects you to answer the questions based on your personal experience. So you can literally talk about yourself, your life, your friends, your family. I'll show you the ways that you can probably pass this part 1 more smoothly, because part 1 is more like a warm-up, and it doesn't require you to think about like global examples. Everything is about your personal life, so it might be easier and less challenging. However, your language is evaluated from the time that you start talking. So some students usually ask, we heard that only part 3 of IELTS speaking test is important, and the less we're not evaluated. This is not correct, because you are evaluated from part 1 till the very last part, which is part 3. However, part 3 is more challenging for the students, but you should bear in mind that whatever language you produce since the beginning, you are judged. So I'll give you some tips, and hopefully these tips are helpful and you can apply them, and you can pass this part with no issues. The questions, as I told you, it depends on how lengthy your answers are. The examiner can ask you around 8 to 12 questions. Your answers should not be too long, and they should not be too short. By too short, I mean, if it's a yes or no question, you should not just say, yes, I do, no, I don't, yes, I am, no, I'm not. So short answers are not enough. If you give short answer to the examiner might ask you for more elaboration by asking you why. For instance, if the examiner asks you, what type of food do you like? And then you just say, I like spicy food. So, period. So the examiner is not satisfied with the amount of language that you produce. So the examiner might ask you why. So before the examiner gets to that level that, hey, I'm not satisfied, I need more information from you, it is better from the very first place that you give more details and more elaboration. But these details and elaboration do not need to be very, very lengthy. I cannot give you numbers of the sentences because sometimes some students, they talk even for 1 minute, but they're still not answering that question. The examiner is not still satisfied because you are just repeating yourself. So it's not a matter of number or seconds, but like very generally, I can say if you can answer the question in 10, 20 seconds or like 3-4 sentences, that will be enough. But it doesn't mean that any 4 sentences are satisfactory. Okay, so literally you need to answer the question if it is with yes or no. You need to give a little bit of details, and in your head you should always answer why before the examiner asks you why. Okay, so that's why I'm saying 3-4 sentences. Like 1 sentence you answer the question directly if it is a yes or no, or if it is like type of food or type of weather. Give 1 or 2 sentence details, and also 1 sentence you need to add the reason why. For instance, if the examiner asks you what is your favorite weather, and then you can say, I love hot, sunny days because, so you see, after you answer the question, before the examiner asks you why, because if you stop here and say, I love hot weather, I love hot summer days, and then period, the examiner will ask you why. So before the examiner asks you that, you need to include that into your answers. So I love hot summer days. I love sunny days because I'm into nature. I'm a nature person, and I love hiking and going to the beach and enjoy my time in the nature. That's why when the weather is warm, I can enjoy the nature more. I can spend more time in nature. So if you notice, I just answer maybe 3-4 sentences, but I already gave a little bit of detail about me, myself, my personality. And then I also mentioned that why I love this type of weather. Definitely the examiner would be satisfied and they won't ask for more elaboration. Another point in this part, in part 1, is about the tenses. As you guys might know, part 1 does not require big vocabularies or very complex sentence structures. You don't need to show off the list of vocabularies that you memorized or the various sentence structures that you know in your grammar. The only thing which is very important in part 1 is that you need to focus on the tenses of the questions, because there are a variety of tenses that the examiners might ask you. Some questions might be in the past, related to the past. Some questions are related to present, and some about the future. So what you need to do is to listen very carefully to the question, get the tense, and answer your questions in the same tense. And even about one topic, for instance, about weather, there might be some questions in the past, some questions about now and some questions in the future. For instance, did you used to like different type of weather when you were a child? Do you think that we will have different type of weather? You will have different type of weather in your country in the next 10 or 20 years. So it refers to the future. So tenses are very important in this part. So you need to listen very carefully, catch the tense, and then if it is simple past, so you need to answer in simple past. If the examiner is asking about at the moment right now, so you need to use probably simple present or present continuous. If the examiner is referring to the future, you can use different types of future. So you don't need to worry about variety of grammatical points or about big words, high level, advanced vocabulary in this part. You just need to communicate with the examiner, understand what they say, and reply in the same tense. Because if you don't catch the tenses are somehow elementary. They are like the basic of the language, right? So if you don't catch the tense, and when the examiner is asking about the past and you answer with a present tense, so it sort of shows that probably you don't have a good knowledge of the tenses. Okay, so another point which is very important is that students usually have some good idea about what general topics might show up in IELTS exam part 1, and they kept memorizing some texts related to those topics. So memorizing your answers, it's a very tricky point. I will show you in the next slides what I mean by memorizing. Memorizing by itself and copying is not bad. That's how we learn the language. That's how babies start talking, because they listen and then they copy. So you listen, you read, you copy, and that's how you learn speaking. So there is nothing wrong with memorizing or with copying. However, by memorizing your answers in IELTS speaking test, which is taboo, it means that if the examiners feel that your answers are not really relevant to the questions, and they feel that, okay, you memorized a text and now you try to relate that text to the topic, but actually deep down they're not the same, you're not answering the same question, and then suddenly maybe they feel that your fluency is different, you have a different fluency in this part. However, when they move on to another part, like part 2 and part 3, they feel that, okay, you cannot produce a very simple sentence. So even the pace is different. Maybe you are talking way more slowly. So if there is this kind of discrepancies in your speaking, then it shows that in some parts of speaking you memorized some texts. That's why you had better fluency. So instead of memorizing, of course, you can read and you can listen, and you want to use the same sentences. That will be actually a very good idea. But what you need to focus in this part is that you should have a natural flow. You don't need to worry about using big words and complex sentence structures in a sort of pre-planned responses. What you need to do is to communicate very smoothly, very naturally with the examiner, as if you are talking to a friend of yours. As I said in the first lesson, IELTS speaking test is an informal type of interview. So you just need to communicate with the person as if he or she is your is your coworker and as your friend, and you are just communicating, talking, discussing about a topic. So rather than focusing and worrying about your vocabularies and grammar, just try to have a very smooth communication with the examiner. You should be able to communicate naturally. So once you memorize a text, then it affects your fluency, and it's very easy for the examiners to detect that whatever you're saying is a memorized text, or you are just sharing your personal experience with the examiner. And this slide, I'll show you the difference between two answers, and we'll see why one of them is acceptable and why the other one is not. Just have this question in mind. Imagine you're asked, what is your favorite sports? And we have two answers here. So first of all, as I said before, don't give only short answer. What is your favorite sport? Basketball. I love basketball. Basketball is my favorite sport, period. This is not enough. Then the examiner would ask you why. Asks for more development of the topic, for more details, for more elaboration. So you can start with, my favorite sport is swimming. I love swimming. One of my favorite sports is swimming. I've always been in love with swimming. But then you need to continue. Take a look at the very first response that we have here, that at first answered the question, and it says, my favorite sport is swimming. Swimming is a physical activity that involves moving through water using various strokes and techniques. It can be done for recreation, exercise, or competition. Swimming is a low-impact form of exercise that strengthens muscles, improves lung capacity, and provides cardiovascular benefits. It is also considered an enjoyable and relaxing activity for many people. So this is actually, I copy-pasted from ChatGPT. I gave the topic. I'll talk about ChatGPT later, another day, fully about the advantages and disadvantages. However, I love this artificial intelligence, but we just need to know how to use this. So now let's see, and I wrote it in rounded brackets that this is not an acceptable response. So this is a question which is asked in part 1. As I mentioned before, part 1 is all about you and your personal experience. However, the response here, it just shows some facts about swimming. Swimming is a physical activity that involves moving through water. It's not related to you. It can be done for recreation, but what about you? Swimming is a low-impact form of exercise. So whatever is here, it's very general facts about swimming that you can easily copy-paste from internet. You can memorize. However, this is not related to you, and it does not show your personal experience. The only sentence which shows your personal experience is the very first sentence. That's your personal opinion. My favorite sport is swimming. But after that, although you elaborated on the topic and developed, but you did it in the wrong way because the information is not related to you. So that is how easily the examiners can detect if whatever you're saying is a memorized response, is a pre-planned response, or you are just simply expressing your personal experience. Let's take a look at the second one. Swimming is one of my favorite sports. I find swimming a great source of stress relief and relaxation. So you say, I find swimming a great source of stress relief. So you're talking about yourself. To me, it is a fun activity that I usually enjoy with my friends. So you talk about you and your friends. It is also a refreshing way to stay cool in hot summer days in my city. So my friends and I usually take a dip in lakes in summer. Swimming is a type of exercise that has always helped me stay fit and healthy. So, you know what I did? First, I gave this topic to ChatGPT, and then it produces the first answer number one. However, it's so impersonal. That answer is so impersonal. But I used it, I got some ideas, I used the facts, and then I injected my own personal opinion and my personal experience and my friends and family. And then this is the fruit of my own personal ideas and ChatGPT or some ideas that I found on the net. It is always good to get some help, of course, but the thing is, you must act smart. So the examiner expects you to produce some personal opinion and some replies based on your personal experience. So the second one, I learned from what I read wherever, and then I injected my own personal experience. And it is just, I believe, 3 or 4 sentences. I first answered a question. I elaborated. I gave a little bit of more details that I love doing it with my friends, what is going on in my city. And I also think that this is good for my health. So the combination of these 3, 4 sentences, which does not take more than, I believe, 15 to 20 seconds, that is an acceptable response to the question, what is your favorite sports? Here we can see some question samples. If you need more samples, because honestly there's no end to it, just DM me on my Instagram or send me an email and I'll send you more samples. Here you can see the topic is weather. It asks, what is your favorite type of weather? Is the weather where you live different from your hometown? So you need to compare the weather of your hometown with the country that you're living. How does different weather affect your mood? Do you usually check the weather forecast app on your cell phone? Or about your daily routines? Do you have the same daily routine every day? Is it easy to follow the same routine? Has your routine changed since you were younger? So this is that type of question that I ask you. The first and the second is like simple present, and the third one is present perfect. Has your routine changed since you were younger? And also simple past. So in your reply, you need to mention something about the past, and then if it has changed or it has always been the same. So you need to use present perfect and simple past. If you don't catch the tense, that is literally the only point in this question. Knowing the difference between simple past and present perfect. If you don't get that, if you don't show that you got it, then you're just simply lose the point. Or do you have any special morning routines, which is about your present? As you can see, about your favorite sport and about your hometown. If you need more topics, general topics in part 1, DM me and I will send a more complete list to you. Let's just wrap up part 1. So part 1 usually takes between 4 to 5 minutes. The examiners always encourage the candidates to talk very close to 5 minutes. Don't give short answers, and you don't need to give very, very lengthy answers. If you give short answers, the examiner will ask you why and ask for more elaboration. And if you talk too much, if your answer is so lengthy, the examiner would stop you and move forward with the next question. But don't worry about it. It doesn't mean that if you're caught short or if the examiner asks you why, it means that you already lost a lot of points. Not at all. You still have the chance. You say, my favorite sport is swimming. You pause. The examiner asks why. You give the elaboration. Don't worry, you're not going to lose points. Or if the examiner doesn't let you finish and then cut you short, again, it has zero impact. Don't worry. The only thing is that I'm just giving you the preparation so you know what the examiners expect. So it would be better to organize your answers from the very first place so you know what the important steps are in answering part 1 questions. So as I mentioned, normally around 8 to 12 questions on very, very general topics. You don't need to worry about the topics that what if they ask something that I have no idea. Even if you cannot relate to one topic, although it is general, I guess I always say, don't panic. You can always make up some stories. Use your imagination. You can simply lie. IELTS examiners are not lie detectors, or they don't judge you based on the idea that you are expressing. The only thing is that, okay, it is usually easier to talk about the reality, the truth, something that we can really relate to. It is really our personal experience because we just remember and then we express. However, if you want to lie or if you want to be a little bit imaginative and creative, and then you are using different parts of your brain, and it might affect your fluency. You might get a little bit slower, let's say, but don't worry, it is better than panicking and getting like dry and have nothing to say, or say that I don't know or I have no idea. So it's always okay to lie and make up stories. It is absolutely fine. Don't forget that you are evaluated based on your English knowledge, okay? Not based on the ideas that you have. So even if you say the earth is flat, it's absolutely okay. So don't worry about that part. I mentioned that you should not focus on showing off the knowledge of your grammar or your advanced vocabulary. You should just focus on a very smooth communication with the examiner through simple grammar and very common vocabularies, because the topics are very common. So your vocabulary should also be very simple. Just don't forget to resonate to your personal life. Express how you think, what you think, and express your feelings and your personal experience. Don't forget to focus on the tenses, as the tenses in question, even in one topic, it might vary: past, present, future. So this is the key. If you want to pass these parts smoothly, don't forget to answer the question either with yes or no and a short answer, or with a word or a short sentence, what you love, what is your favorite, whatever. And after that, gives some details, and then add the reason why. Why swimming is your favorite sport, or answer why you love spicy food. So you need to insert that reason into your answers before the examiner asks you so. So you can see different ways that you guys can reach out to me. You can either go to my website, Miriam@IELTSadventure.com. There are different items. You can purchase the course on IELTS Speaking Test. It is it is a course about 3 weeks. and we go over all the details from A to Z about IELTS speaking test, and all the sessions are live, so we'll get to see each other. You will have the opportunity to ask me whatever questions you have regarding your IELTS speaking, and there are 2 mock exams as bonus included in the course. Once right in the beginning to show you what level you are, and one at the very end, the final mock exam, that you'll get to know your level. It shows you how much you have improved. It comes with a comprehensive written feedback, the report. It shows your strong points, your weak points, the areas that you need to improve. We usually run that course every month, but there are not a lot of spots because it is a speaking course, and I cannot have many students in one class because they need individual attention. But it runs every month. So if you find one calendar, let's say the calendar that you can see there is definitely the one that is going to run. You can follow me on Instagram. You can always DM me and I'll answer all your questions regarding IELTS speaking. You can also follow me on Facebook. So usually on social media, you can find all the updates. And if you also go to my YouTube channel, you can subscribe. You can find all the YouTube channel information also on my social media. And that's how you can have access to the materials or any kind of free lessons. So that was all about part one, sorry. And next week, hopefully the same time, next Tuesday, we are going to talk about IELTS speaking part 2. So you will see all these recorded videos on my YouTube channel, and if you subscribe, you will receive some notifications whenever I go live. I hope this lesson help you out in having a better journey in your IELTS. Don't forget, I'm here to help you guys and answer your questions. Have a great rest of your day, and bye for now.